Hello, and welcome back to the yearly Halloween speedrun special. This year, it's time for Silent Hill 3, and we'll be covering a new world record that was just set last month in the New Game, No Quick Save Quick Load category. The start of the run will be quite packed with information, but I'll explain most of the necessary details as we go through the run. So let's just get started. We begin the run in the amusement park, a small dream sequence where the quickest way to progress is to die as fast as possible, similar to the Silent Hill 1 run. To assist us will be an enemy called a closer, who needs to do a specific set of attacks to kill us quickly. First, we walk up to the closer and hope that it attacks us with its left arm and knocks us over, which it does. Afterwards, we need the exact same attack, but strafe into the spike as it's retracting back into its arm, knocking us forward. All that's left is one stab while we're on the floor, and that's Heather Mason down for the count. While all of that went fairly quickly, this part is unbelievably luck-based. We got the favorable attacks in this run, but the closer can attack with its right arm as well, which doesn't have a spike on it, thus dealing way less damage, losing you a ton of time. At absolute worst, you can be resetting on this guy for an hour to get the right pattern. In a run this optimized, you cannot afford to lose 5, 10, or even 15 seconds to bad luck at the start. The reason we need the closer to kill us rather than just jumping off a ledge is because this run is performed on the easy difficulty, which decreases boss health, but also removes the teetering animation near ledges, which makes you unable to fall off of anything. In the cutscene that we just skipped, we get our first weapon, the handgun, which is going to be used during the first boss fight. The first enemies that we'll encounter aside from the closer are the numb bodies. Their attacks are luckily pretty slow, so they're not a major inconvenience that'll cost us time, yet anyway. In tighter spaces later in the game, they can cause some problems. Now we're gonna head into Helen's Bakery to pick up the tongs, a deceivingly tricky pickup with a tight strafe. Silent Hill 3's movement is the most smooth of the trilogy, allowing you to strafe into a run fluidly without any stops, which you'll see a lot throughout the run. You're also about to see the first quick turn cancel in the upcoming storage room. Quick turn canceling is performed by quick turning, like you would do normally, then aiming and holding the forward key in swift succession. Heather will finish the turn by herself while you're building speed moving forwards. Also, some handgun bullets and health drinks were picked up in the room too, which will be useful for the first boss and for some stamina related things later. Now it's time for the bookstore, and the puzzle here is quite interesting in the context of a speedrun. Firstly, the code on the books is random, but you don't need to place the books on the ground onto the shelf to see the code. With enough hours into the game, you can tell which number is which. On other difficulties, you do need to place the books on the shelf, even if you know what the code is. Here, it's 8730. We're about to enter an elevator where spamming the map button saves around a second. This currently has no confirmed explanation, and if the runners don't get it, I don't get it. Look, I'm just here to deliver the facts. After this elevator ride, we'll receive the radio and head into the next area of the game. Our first objective in the Nightmare Mall is the flashlight. Just like in Silent Hill 2, our protagonist cannot pick up certain items without being able to see them. The item we need after the flashlight is the coat hanger, needed to pull down a ladder to get to an upper floor. While we're getting there, let's talk about the person who performed this run, and who also helped explain the tricks and strategies to me, since they can get quite complicated later in the run. This run was performed by DeathTropes, a very skilled runner who grinded a ton to get this run. Silent Hill 3 requires a lot of luck and execution to line up in order to get a clean run. And what you're watching is the world's best performance, and also the first ever sub 3630 in the category. Tropes also holds the world record in the category with quick saving and quick loading, another category that took quite the grind. Definitely go drop him a follow on his Twitch for some cozy streams and for some high level gameplay. In the upcoming dining room, we'll be picking up the cooked key. And normally, the camera shifts position onto a fixed camera angle of the plate with the dog on it as you're picking it up. But Tropes was just barely out of range for the camera change, so he got thrown off a bit by it. This can happen a few times throughout the game when you least expect it, so you gotta be on your toes. In this room, we're gonna pick up the walnut, use the cooked key to enter the cafe, and ignore the steel pipe sticking out of the wall. Melee weapons are entirely avoided throughout this run, which shouldn't be a surprise if you've seen my previous 2 Silent Hill videos. They're slow, and conserving ammo isn't really a concern on the easy difficulty. We should also talk about quick saving and quick loading, as it may have gone over your head earlier. This is all because this run was performed on the PC version of Silent Hill 3. The PC version is what allows you to quick save and quick load, which can be exploited by speedrunners for various zips and out of bounds skips, saving a bit over 6 minutes throughout the game. The reason I'm covering this category instead is because in order to do these videos the way I do them, I need a clean recording of the game and game audio, nothing else. Tropes did not have a raw gameplay recording of his world record with quick saving and quick loading, but feel free to check out the live version in the description if you want more Silent Hill 3. They're both interesting categories in their own way, but it also feels better to cover this one, as it was more recent, and my other 2 Silent Hill videos were relatively glitch-free. Anyway, we put our walnut inside of a nutcracker in the room we were just in, and the nutcracker's hitbox is very small. Easy to miss if you're trying to go fast. From the walnut, we receive the moonstone, which will be needed to open a door on the top floor of the mall, so we can make our way to the first boss, Splitworm. This corridor has a closer that can easily block you if it's in a bad spot. A lot of the Silent Hill 3 enemies are pretty big compared to previous titles, and you often find yourself in these crammed corridors with little space to maneuver. Getting blocked is one thing, but getting knocked over is worse. Something that can cost you around 4 seconds every time it happens. Not ideal in a run with this high optimization. Getting knocked over isn't a concern right now, but as enemies get more complex and corridors get slimmer, it gets pretty bad later in the game. Now it's time for Splitworm, and we're going to use our trusty handgun to take him down. Splitworm can either take 6, 7, or 8 shots to defeat. It's entirely random. If it takes 7 or 8 shots, Tropes needs to make sure to do a tiny wait after the first 6 shots. Otherwise, Splitworm will retreat back into the wall. This can lose you up to 30 seconds, killing the run. So let's see how this all plays out. Tropes got a 7-shot Splitworm, so he had to wait a tiny bit before shooting again. Otherwise, he would have gone back into the wall if it was an 8-shot. Out of all the bosses in this run, Splitworm is the least complex of them all. Just a little warm-up for what's to come. With the subway being our next big area, the pace of the run slows down a little. A nice break from that fast-paced information-crammed opening that was the mall. We'll spend the next minute or so walking around, grabbing a nutcracker, and using it to break open a rusty lock. Let's talk routes a little, specifically health routes for this category. While everyone knows these 2 items heal you when you're low on health, a lot of people don't know that they also come with stamina benefits. Ampoules give Heather unlimited sprint for 10 minutes when used, and health drinks give 40 seconds of full sprint. Heather can, however, only sprint when she's outside, so using health items while inside for stamina purposes does not matter. She always runs at a fixed speed indoors. Later in the run when we get to Silent Hill, these items will become more valuable as we make sure Heather is running at top speed. DeathTropes is doing the health drink route in this run, which saves a few seconds over the ampoule route. This is because the ampoules you have to pick up are a bit more out of the way, whereas the health drinks are more common to come by and won't deviate much from the intended path. We're gonna take a small detour to walk into this abandoned train to pick up the shotgun. The shotgun is the weapon we'll be using to take care of most of the bosses, as it deals a lot of damage very quickly, and has some tech involved so we can shoot it faster than intended. We'll get to that later. We also just walked past the new enemy, the Insane Cancer, who's a wide boy, and his width is a slight issue in later rooms of the game. Coming up, we need to head to a different part of the subway to inspect the door, which will trigger an event where a train will arrive. This part is deceptively tricky, as 2 dogs will spawn right after interacting with the door. You're on a somewhat strict time limit to make it back up onto the ledge before the train runs over you. And if the dogs don't play nice, you can actually die here, both from getting hit, but also due to an auto-lock function that's exclusive on the easy difficulty. If a dog is near Heather as she's trying to climb a ledge, she prioritizes locking onto the dog instead of climbing the ledge, since they share the same button. Luckily, things played out fine this time, but that's a very common place to lose time. Another place that can lose you a bit of time is the train section coming up. Tropes needs to navigate through multiple narrow cabins where 2 of them have enemies that he needs to avoid. One of the 2 has a small numb body and a big one that can knock you down in rare cases. On higher difficulties, these train corridors have a few more enemies, making you more susceptible to taking damage. Tropes gets away scot-free this time, but had he been on any other difficulty than easy, there would have been an insane cancer lying on the ground, blocking the second to final door. Enemies are also more aggressive on higher difficulties. They attack at higher frequency and deal more damage overall. That doesn't mean you'll just be able to waltz through this game damageless on easy. Some enemies later in the game move very fast, take up a lot of room, and attack quickly. Runners often refer to getting hit as getting taxed, as the game will always find a way to nab a few seconds away from you. We got a while to go until anything too exciting happens here in the underpass. Just a bunch of doors, a wine bottle pickup, followed by a quick turn cancel to get out of the room. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, at least at the time of writing this video. Konami announcing 4 Silent Hill games and a movie. What do you guys think exactly? I'll admit I'm a bit of a boomer, as you could probably tell by the type of games I cover in my videos. I tend to stick to games from the 90s and 2000s, usually PlayStation, but I just enjoy playing and speedrunning games from around that time period. Personally anyway. I'm rarely excited about new releases, because I can usually find equal enjoyment in an old game bought for $5 on a flea market, as opposed to paying $60 on the newest thing. Especially if it's just a remake of something that I already played, and don't care to see a revival of. With that being said, I was very impressed with how ambitious Konami's announcements were, seeing as how the Silent Hill series had been left to rot for multiple years. Even so, I can't help but feel that they're putting their eggs in too many baskets, leading to possibly multiple mediocre releases, as opposed to one polished product. We'll see how well my statement ages, but I think perhaps too much was promised. But don't let my opinion sway you, the Silent Hill series has not seen a new release in a long time. And I don't blame you if you grew up with the games and you're excited to see the series expand. Please be respectful in the comments if you want a space to voice your opinion on all this, and realize that everyone is different at the end of the day. To get back to the run, the underpass does have a few long corridors, as you saw earlier, but the few rooms that have items we need to pick up or use are some of the trickiest in the run. We first need to fill the wine bottle we picked up earlier with oil, which is going to be needed straight away. Now it's time for the machine control room, which is one of the hardest rooms in the game to do fast. I'll just let it explain itself. If it wasn't obvious, the machine control room has just about everything in it, and it throws it all at you within the span of around 10 seconds. It's got a quick turn cancel, multiple things you need to interact with, tight strafes, and troublesome camera angle changes. It should be mentioned that it's actually possible to use the bottle of oil through the railing from the other side. The hitbox is just barely big enough to where you can grind the railing and it'll accept the bottle from the menu if you stand in a very precise spot. This is quite risky to go for, and only saves a second or two, since you still need to turn the switch on after using the bottle. Some runners do however attempt it in shorter categories like UFO ending. Following that is another infamous pickup that brings pain and despair to all Silent Hill 3 runners. And you got this long corridor right before it, just so you can overthink how you're going to screw it up. Yeah, that hairdryer has a nasty camera angle change when you're close to it. Tropes actually played the room extremely well, considering you're usually expecting the camera change to happen. But this time, he was just barely out of range of the trigger, and his movement was still on point. Now we just throw the hairdryer into the water, which electrocutes a tentacle monster who would normally kill us and stop us from progressing. In the next room, we'll do a small optimization of soaking our boots in the water and climbing back up onto the ledge, rather than running around the long way. Also, the screeching noise you're hearing is an enemy I haven't really talked about much, but we've seen it as far back as the mall. They're called pendulums. Tropes actually got a fairly bad pattern in one of the longer corridors a few minutes ago, which almost got him hit. But generally, they're not a big threat in the run except right near the end. Now we're outside, and you finally get to see what Heather's full sprint running animation looks like. The stretch we'll be running won't be long enough to the point where she starts jogging, so health items won't be used quite yet. Our next objective is to throw a mattress down into a hole through the ground so we can land safely at the bottom. Funny enough, this is actually another instance of Heather being unable to interact with the mattress if the flashlight is off. Tropes does turn it off immediately after the cutscene, however, as a side effect of the flashlight being on, is that it attracts some enemies easier, which could cause you to get hit. It's not as important in Silent Hill 3 as in, let's say, Silent Hill 1, but it's still important for a few parts, including a hallway with a dog coming up soon. First, we grab a rope in this office room, which is one of 2 items we need to descend down a broken elevator later on. On normal and hard, the rope is usually locked behind a screwdriver you need to collect on a different floor. But on easy, the rope is sitting right there for the taking, saving around 10 seconds over the other difficulties. The other item we need to descend down the elevator is the jack, which is located on the top floor. But we'll also pick up some health items that are placed pretty much right where we're headed anyway. Again, they'll be needed for stamina purposes later on. Welcome to Nightmare Hilltop, one of the creepiest areas in the series, and it's also where the run really picks up in difficulty too. Our main goal in this area is to collect 3 items to burn down a painting. We collected the oxidol just then, but we'll also need a pork liver and a matchbox to be able to start the fire. First, we'll head down to floor 1 for some shotgun shells, which will be needed for the boss at the end of this area, and the pork liver. Normally, an insane cancer would appear in this room, who's perfectly blocking the door you need to leave through. But this only happens on normal and hard, making getting out of this room a bit tougher on those difficulties. No sweat on easy though. Now we need to make our way back to floor 5, and every time Tropes enters the elevator, a quick turn cancel is performed to face the buttons as quickly as possible. In the room containing the matchbox, Tropes performs a precise strafe pickup, followed by a quick turn cancel to get in and out of the room swiftly. Now with all 3 items in our possession, we can finally head to the room where we can use them. To combine the items faster, Tropes will use a combination of both the mouse and keyboard to speed up the menu ever so slightly. In these next few corridors, you'll see the introduction of slurpers, the worst enemy in this run. They're fast, take up a lot of space, and have a few different attacks that can get you knocked down or grabbed. Tropes gets a very favorable pattern, and miraculously gets away without taking any damage. But in general, it's commonplace to lose time here. Immediately afterwards is arguably the worst pickup in the game, and that's the silver coin. The hitbox is minuscule. You could be standing right in front of it, and it won't work sometimes. But Tropes executes it well and heads on over to the vending machine, where we get the life insurance key. You know, if I was Heather in this spot, I don't see why you wouldn't just snag the rest of the coins off that table. There could have been some other goodies in that vending machine. Also, by going through the entrance of the painting, we actually ended up on floor 4. But all we came here for was the life insurance key, so now we need to head back to floor 1 to use it. This next corridor has 2 slurpers crammed into a very tight spot. Luckily, another great pattern blessed Tropes on this run, with one crawling away from him and the other being busy with his lunch. Now we need to read the fairy tale on the table in order to make the glutton disappear, a monster that's been blocking the exit to this place the whole time. This Nightmare Hilltop was actually a gold split for DeathTropes, meaning it was the fastest Nightmare Hilltop he had ever performed. No wonder, as he didn't get slurped a single time, and executed very well all throughout. Next up is the boss battle with Missionary, and I'm going to start talking about it now, since there is a lot to cover. Now that we're going to start using the shotgun more frequently, you'll also be seeing the first usage of the quick shot. Quick shooting is a technique performed by aiming, blocking, then shooting in quick succession to skip the initial slow aiming animation. Missionary needs to be shot at very close range with a quick shot to guarantee a knockdown. After that, he can either get up or stay on the ground. If he gets back up, you can lose up to 6 seconds getting him back down. After a perfect missionary fight and a bunch of cutscenes, it's weirdly calming to be back amongst the mists of Silent Hill. Tropes also equip the health drinks before fighting missionary, as now is when we need to use them in order to keep our stamina up as we're running through the town. On the PC version of Silent Hill 3, healing items can be used without having to go into the menu by pressing a hotkey. You do need to equip it once, and since we want to minimize time spent menuing, it's quicker to menu the health drinks and the shotgun at the same time before fighting Missionary. Tropes has played the game enough to know where Heather is about to run out of stamina, and will only need to use one health drink before we reach our destination. So where are we going right now anyway? Well, we're headed to a good old Silent Hill 2 location, the Brookhaven Hospital. But until then, enjoy the stroll through the foggy town. First things first in the hospital is to head to floor 2 to pick up some items in the women's locker room. The nail polish remover, the perfume, and some shotgun shells. One of these items isn't like the rest. Now we need to unlock a door to get into the patient wing. The code to the door is 4639 every time, so no further inspection of any clues is required. You're about to see the first usage of Silent Hill 3's zoom feature. In the next room, Tropes is going to zoom in the camera and pause the game. This is to inspect this tiny alarm clock to see where the hands are pointing, which is the solution to open a briefcase in this room. This puzzle is very picky and doesn't just round to the nearest 5 or 0, so Tropes sits in the menu for a while to ensure that he's got the time right. The alarm clock is going to go off after Tropes unpauses the game, as that's the intended way to figure out where the hands are facing. This time, the code was quite tricky at 9049. Which any runner could have misread by a minute or two. You may have thought that pausing for a while would lose Tropes a bunch of time, but Silent Hill 3 is timed using the in-game timer. The in-game timer stops ticking during cutscenes, while the game is loading, and when you're paused. It does tick when you're actually moving around and when you're in the item menu, so sometimes you can take advantage of the in-game timer pausing, and other times you just have to be very quick on some things. But honestly, I think that zoom strat is one of the coolest and most unique tricks I've covered in this series. Now we're going to use that nail polish remover we picked up earlier to nab this key off the wall. Tropes also has to reselect the shotgun, since the game automatically equips Heather with the handgun once you enter Silent Hill. It's a subtle optimization, but it's why Tropes equips the health drinks first, then the shotgun on Missionary, so that the cursor is on the shotgun when he has to equip it again. Now we're going to use the camera that we got from the briefcase and use it to take a photo of a code hidden behind a shelf. There is a small amount of time you can lose by having to move the mouse around more when punching in the code, but pedantics. The briefcase code from earlier is honestly the one that matters, and has a bigger swing on it in terms of time loss. Tropes' code of 9049 was actually pretty slow. You can get as lucky as to get 0100, where you literally click the mouse one time and that's the end of the puzzle. Again, it's like a second here, second there, but these Silent Hill games are quite optimized, so these tiny nitpicks are worth pointing out. Now that we're on floor 3 and we punched in the code, we're gonna head to a room to initiate a phone conversation with Vincent, then leave and head back down to floor 2. We also picked up the submachine gun and some ammo in the basement. The submachine gun has a really great fire rate, and you'd expect it to perhaps obsolete the shotgun from here on out, but we'll only see it being used on one boss later on. Now on floor 2, we're gonna enter the M door. While we're running through this section, I should also mention that I'm choosing not to go into the game's story. Not that I really have time to talk about it anyway, but I think if you made it this far into the video and you like what you see, you should definitely give this game a try. The story is one of the game's selling points, and you're not gonna gather much from watching a speedrun. Playing Silent Hill 1 first is definitely mandatory if you want full context, which I don't see as a negative thing since Silent Hill 1 is also a great game. Some people are so attached to the stories and atmospheres of these games that they find it silly as to why you would want to speedrun them. But these days, man, people speedrun everything. Some people have squeezed every last drop out of these games casually to the point where the only thing left to do is to beat it again faster. The Silent Hill games give you instant feedback when you complete the game in form of a final time on the results screen. That feeling of improvement every time you see that time lower itself is very fulfilling. And who is to say what game you should and shouldn't be able to get that gratification from? Besides, the Silent Hill games have more optimizations and tricks than meets the eye. And I hope these videos shine great light on that. Because if you enjoy them, I'll keep making them. Welcome to the Nightmare Hospital. Or hell, that's what I would call it. Anyway, our first objective is to pick up the cremated key on basement floor 3. Then head back up to floor 2 to pick up the plastic bag and our final 2 health drinks for this run. The cremated key is normally locked behind a puzzle we would have to complete, but the puzzle is skipped by playing on easy. Another couple of seconds we get to pick up for free. Now we're going to head to floor 3 where we're going to use that plastic bag of ours. These nightmare slurpers, by the way, are actually easier to dodge than the regular ones. These ones just tend to vibrate on the floor, so usually you can just walk right by them. We're headed to a room where we can fill the plastic bag with blood, but we're also going to be equipping the perfume for a later purpose. The blood, however, will be given to Count Dracula in trade for... Okay, you know what? That joke was so half-assed in the Silent Hill 1 video, I'm not doing it again. What we actually need it for is a sacrifice on floor 1, which will open the path to our next boss battle against Leonard. Leonard is a terribly luck-based fight, in what feels like the true coin flip of this run. The issue lies in what Leonard decides to do after his first knockdown. If he lies still, you're mostly in the clear as long as you execute correctly, but if he decides to swim around, it's basically run over. as it can cost you upwards of 30 seconds. Tropes needs to open the fight with a quick shot to knock Leonard down right away, then hope he lies still. Afterwards, he keeps him still in the water by firing 2 more times, then swapping to the submachine gun to finish him off. Tropes also needed to quickshoot the submachine gun and aim downwards while doing so. This is very difficult to do with full accuracy, and will usually cause you to miss a bullet or two, meaning you have to take a few extra seconds to finish Leonard off with a kick. In this run, Tropes got a perfect fight. It literally couldn't have gone any better. And now the nerves start settling in, as you realize you're on the run of your life. The calm before the storm, as they say. We're now back to walking the streets of Silent Hill. Again, some health drinks are going to be used to keep Heather's stamina up to full speed, and we acquired the talisman after the Leonard fight. But there's not much else going on besides that, so allow me to talk about something else to kill the time. I gotta come clean, guys. I have not played Silent Hill 4. It looks like a great game, and I'd love to try it, but this YouTube stuff, along with the streaming I do on my Twitch, is really time consuming, and I haven't really found the time to play it. The current world record of the game also doesn't have a raw recording of purely the gameplay, so as it stands right now, I couldn't make a video on the game even if I wanted to. I'm in a bit of an awkward spot, I guess. I understand many of you would probably love to see a Silent Hill 4 video next year, but if I can't find a suitable run, I'll likely have to cover a different horror game. I could also just end up not enjoying the game, or the run could just not be interesting enough to warrant a whole video. I'm just giving you guys a heads up now that next year may or may not be Silent Hill again. It's 50-50 really, and a lot can happen in a year. Regardless of what happens in October 2023, I hope you're still going to be strapped in for a spooky seasonal speedrun video. I'm very passionate about doing these types of Halloween specials, and the support for a Silent Hill 3 video has been overwhelmingly positive. People across multiple platforms were asking if I was going to do Silent Hill 3 this year, and of course I am silly, but you would already know that if you were supporting me on Patreon, as I announce what my next couple of projects are over there. Alright, enough shilling, let's get back to the run. That quick stop back at the motel was us talking to Vincent, who basically told us to go to the amusement park, which is the place we were at the very start of the game for a short amount of time. This will be our next big area, with the same usual Silent Hill shenanigans, puzzles, items, and a boss at the end. We're coming up to the reason we equipped the perfume though. Some enemies behave differently when Heather is wearing the perfume, and there's a closer who tends to leave us alone when we have it on. Right as we enter the amusement park, we're gonna head towards the Sweet Factory store. And the closer is almost always blocking the door if the perfume isn't equipped. Inside the Sweet Factory store, we need to acquire the coaster key, which drops after a random delay upon walking a certain path through the store. Tropes got very lucky this time around, getting the key to drop very fast. Now we need to head towards the roller coaster and proceed through the game by walking along its tracks. We need to use the coaster key to open a control room to flick a switch to turn the ride off, but the switch can actually be hit through the wall if you're playing on the PS2 version. The developers shrunk the inspection box of the switch inside the control room on the PC version, making the trick console only. This is one of the few places in the game where playing on console actually saves a bit of time over PC, since you can skip grabbing the coaster key in the Sweet Factory store. In the cutscene that we just skipped, a roller coaster is heading towards us at full speed, forcing Heather to jump off the side. Now we're gonna head inside Borley's Haunted Mansion, everyone's favorite.
Welcome to the Borley Haunted Mansion. We're so glad you came. Please come inside and look around. When you feel you're ready, then go through the door. Help! Help! Do you hear those voices? A family of 4 was sliced into bloody pieces in this room. Ah, the cries of the children. the murderer was caught. Do you know why he said he killed his family? Because I felt I had to! Anyway, I'm lying. It's all just a joke. I wanted to scare you, that's all. The truth is, only one person died. By suicide. That's Danny. A quiet young man, but quite friendly as you can see. He was so eager to meet you. His hometown is New Orleans, but he came here after first losing his way. Oh, maybe you might know. Where is the path to heaven? This mansion is quite old, so I'm so sorry. This place is just falling apart. The mechanism is broken, you see. It wasn't supposed to stop there, I assure you. There's the exit. I hope you enjoyed your tour. Please come back anytime. Or if you'd prefer, we could come and visit you instead. That was supposed to be the exit, but it seems that no one wants you to leave. Everyone really likes you. They want you to stay with them.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, you gotta know this maze pretty well. If you touch the red light at all, it instantly kills you, so don't screw around. Secondly, while we are forced to sit through the monologue in the Haunted Mansion, the developers had the foresight to make it skippable on New Game Extra, which is nice at least. And third, sorry about the jump scare. I just had to fill the bingo square one way or the other. I get one per video. Now we're gonna head over to our next big room to pick up a few items. The chain, the red shoe, and some shotgun shells. The chain will be used to pull open a door very soon. The red shoe is one of two key items we need to progress later on. And the shotgun shells will be needed for a carousel section coming up, as well as a boss. I'll go ahead and talk about the carousel section now, since it's very complicated to grasp and needs a bit of time to explain before it all happens. For the next little while, we're just going to use the chain on the door, pick up a doll head, which is the other key item aside from the red shoe, then use them both to get to the carousel. A bunch of horses are located inside of the carousel, where Tropes has to shoot every single horse in order for a cutscene to appear, which takes you to the boss of this area. Tropes has to be quick when doing this, as this sequence is on a very strict time limit, and only ends every 12 seconds or so. The issue is that the horses are bobbing up and down and are only able to be hit when they're at the bottom. In order to make the fastest cycle, Tropes will walk up and interact with each horse, pulling some text up on the screen, which pauses the in-game timer. This allows him to wait for the horse to be at the bottom while keeping the timer paused while doing so. If Tropes is just slightly too slow during this section, he has to wait an extra 12 seconds for the cutscene to appear. Again, in a game this optimized, that's pretty much run over. You're gonna see Tropes actually makes a slight error here, which nearly cost him the whole run. Upon entering the carousel, Tropes pauses the game and heads into the save menu. This just initiates the sequence of the carousel spinning around faster. But as he exits the save menu, he accidentally interacts with the first horse instead of shooting it right away. Had the horse been too high, he would have missed, which is bye-bye world record. The same would have applied had he overmashed the text, potentially making him inspect the horse a second time. Luckily, he barely saved his run, and now he just has to hit every horse normally from here on out. Like I mentioned earlier, Tropes is holding the text on screen from each horse as it pauses the in-game timer as he's waiting for the horse to descend so he can hit them. Tropes will now pause the game again as it ends the sequence quicker, giving you the cutscene right away. After the cutscene, it's time to fight Alessa. Tropes only needs to stay in the pause menu for a few seconds, but takes some extra time to collect himself here, as he wasn't sure whether or not he actually made the cycle with that little mistake from the first horse. Just a needed breather after that close call. But it's not over yet. The nerves are starting to build now as the end of the run is near. After unpausing, the fight with Alessa can be pretty make or break just like the other bosses. She needs to be knocked down 4 separate times to end the fight, and some clever positioning will be used between each phase to manipulate her to spawn in the same spot every time. Tropes begins the fight with a quick shot, which stuns Alessa for long enough to sneak in a second shot for a knockdown. Tropes then runs to a certain spot, and here, you can choose to listen for an audio cue or wait for the camera to move. When either of these two things happen, you know for certain that Alessa has respawned. And Tropes is going to do the same thing that he did in the first phase. It seems rather rinse and repeat, but in the fourth phase is where disaster strikes, in what is probably the most glaring mistake in the run. Alessa turned to the side as Tropes was attempting his quick shot, which caused most of the bullets to miss. Then the second shot missed at point blank range, both really unfortunate, but the run still lives on. Now Tropes just has to wait for Alessa's iframes to run out as she's getting back up, and finish her off with one last blast. Now it's time for the church, the last area of the game. Our final objective to get to the end is to collect 5 tarot cards scattered across. After skipping this cutscene, we collect our first. Coming up in around 15 seconds is the first footsteps corridor. In the corridor, you'll hear some cries and see some footsteps heading towards a painting. You need to walk far enough into the room to trigger the footsteps, then wait for them to reach the painting before being able to move it to reveal a door behind it. Tropes is intentionally going to leave the room twice, as the footsteps still continue onwards during the fade in and fade out as you're going through the door. This saves time since the in-game timer pauses a little when going through the door, but the footsteps continue to run for a little bit while the timer is paused. Even if you perform the room right, Tropes claims the room is still somewhat of a coin flip on whether you can get through the painting right away. A very scary segment towards the end of the run. Here's our second tarot card and a cutscene with Vincent initiates. Tropes narrowly dodges a hit from a new enemy, the Scraper, who's very fast and has a tendency to text a couple of seconds from your run right at the end. Now we're on the bottom floor and we're going to pick up our third tarot card, as well as a ton of shotgun shells needed for the final boss. We're currently headed to the room where we need to put in the tarot cards, but only to pick up the brass key from the room. We'll return once we have all 5 cards. Also, I apologize if the quality of the video goes to shit a little bit here. The fiery walls of this area really kills the bitrate, almost like it's melting your screen. Anyway, we're coming up to the second footsteps corridor, which functions the exact same as the first, although this time instead of a painting, it's a wall we need to inspect. Tarot card number 4. Now back on the top floor, the Scraper has somehow made his way all the way over to where Tropes is. Surely that won't be an issue later. Here's our 5th and final tarot card, and I gotta say, just as a little side note, this final area always creeps me out. It encapsulates such a terrifying atmosphere that even watching it back and having to edit all of this, I get shivers. But there's not that much left, so I'll manage. The worst room for me, casually, was definitely the storage room with all the mannequins, which we didn't get to see in this run. Thankfully. Bastard. Oh, come on, you too? Okay, this hit is actually extremely common to take, so no biggie there. But the scraper hitting Tropes on the top floor was very unlucky. Now it's time to use those tarot cards we collected, and Tropes will equip the shotgun before selecting the tarot cards, as we'll need it for the final boss. Even though the shotgun was equipped during the Alessa fight, the game once again defaulted Heather to the pistol once we entered the church, so we have to equip it one more time. The in-game timer also pauses during this puzzle, so you can take your time putting in the cards. Now we're going to use the pendant, which has been in our inventory since the beginning of the game. And now it's time for God. Tropes is going to initiate a loop of running into the platform while aiming, so Heather faces the shotgun upwards. Then he shoots once, waits for God's arms to stop moving, then shoots again before tanking a hit. God does have multiple attacks, but as long as you're right up against her and relatively in the center, she will always do the headbutt attack, and you can keep her in this repetitive stun lock as long as you have health items. As Tropes drops lower on health, he will use the remaining health drinks to stay alive. And from here on, it's pretty much smooth sailing. And that's the newest world record of Silent Hill 3 No Quick Save Quick Load performed by DeathTropes. I hope you enjoyed the run, and I hope you had a great month of October. Special thanks to Tropes and Soso for explaining all of the game's intricacies and helping me understand the run. If you're interested in speedrunning any of the Silent Hill games, I've left a link to the community Discord in the description. The games have a relatively low barrier to entry, so if you've felt inspired after watching my Silent Hill Speedrun Explained trilogy, maybe give it a try and see where you end up. Anyway, that's enough for me. Let's see that final time, and I'll see you next year for whatever's next. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please consider subscribing and supporting me on Patreon. Take care, and have a good one.